Hi, Apostle Buddy Crum here. Glad to see you or be with you this morning. I can't see you, wish I could, but this is the best we can do is to really just interact with you, and it's a wonderful to be able to do this. I've been speaking to you on a series of wisdom and the kind of wisdom that we need to have when we're in times like these. You know, it says in Proverbs, it says that principle is the main thing, or wisdom is the principle or the main thing. That's Proverbs 4:7. And it also says the fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. And that means the wisdom is to avoid those things would be traps to us, which are things that are not of God. Depart from evil. And so, you know, wisdom is what will we seek during times like these. You know, I remember there's wisdom, but there's also the predicate to that is you have to have information. As you take information, you learn about it, that's knowledge, and then when you apply it, that is wisdom. The definition of wisdom is knowledge and the capacity to make use of it. So this is the subject today as wisdom, information, knowledge, and wisdom. When I was many years ago, when I had finished college and was going into service, I went into the Air Force and I requested that I could be put over the motor pool. Now that was something that really surprised the commanding officer, and he really didn't want me to do that, and he didn't encourage me, but I knew that when my time in the service was complete, that I wanted to be in the trucking business with my father. But the thing that was so interesting about that, I had grown up around trucks and worked in the shop and knew how to prepare them and repair them. And so as a motor pool officer, I was to teach the troops, the new recruits in the Air Force that were coming into the motor pool, how to all the knowledge they needed to for every part of a truck or a car, but more particularly, now they were much simpler in those days because they didn't have computers. But let me hasten to say that one of the things, the point I want to make is that when in the trucks at that time, many years ago, we did not have automatic transmissions, not at all. And very few cars did. So at that time, we would come to the part of teaching about automatic transmission. I had never seen or worked on an automatic transmission, and yet I had the knowledge, book knowledge, of all about automatic transmission, but had never repaired one. So I would teach them. I had no wisdom at all about those automatic transmissions. And so you see, you can have a lot of knowledge, but if you don't know how to apply it, then it is just that. Well, where could we go for wisdom better in the New Testament than in the book of James? Now, I may have a little difficulty reading this simply because I picked up an older Bible that I've used, and I have it so marked up, that's why I guess I don't use it. So it's an old King James Bible, but it's so marked up I may have a little difficulty in reading it. But James says, when you go through trials, when you go through tribulation, that you're going to need wisdom. So he instructs us, when you need wisdom and you don't know how to have that wisdom, ask for it. But he says, ask for it believing or in faith. In James 1:5, he says, if any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of God that giveth to all men liberally and unbraideth not, and it shall be given him. So our first instruction is we will need wisdom in times like these. And he says, when you have wisdom, you will not be double-minded. And you will not be double-minded, meaning you will not be unstable in all your ways. The double-minded is when you're in confusion and you look for the world's wisdom, and that you think, is that the answer, or God's wisdom, which is the answer? And when your mind goes back and forth, you can be double-minded and not know which is the real, but if you ask, you shall receive it. And he says, he goes on to say, then he talks about that in wisdom, you apply for wisdom when you go through temptation, because wisdom is the purity of God. Wisdom is pure. And so he says, if you're tempted, it is not God, it is the devil. And the wisdom would tell us to know that and not allow upon our own wisdom to know the difference. You see, the argument of James is that if you apply wisdom in your life, it will produce fruit, and that is the fruit that God will provide for the purpose and edification of his people. So we are to seek wisdom, and he will give it to us. And he goes on to say, for the wrath of man worketh not the righteousness of God. We've already said that the source of wisdom is the righteousness of God. But ye are to be doers of the word, and not hearers only, deceiving your own selves. In other words, you can have a lot of knowledge, but if you don't apply that knowledge, God's knowledge, then it's not wisdom. And when you do apply it, you become a doer of word. That's why James would say you have faith, but you need to show me the results of that faith, and then I'll know that you have that kind of wisdom. So we're to be doers of the word, which is wisdom. But then James goes on, and he gets in later on, and he says, now when you look at the two kinds of wisdom, God's wisdom and earthly wisdom, there's quite a difference between the two. And he talks about this when he gets over into the 3rd chapter, and he's starting with the 13th verse. And let me read that, a little bit of that. What is a wise man? That's what we're talking about, wise wisdom. And endued with knowledge among you, let him show out of a good conversation his works with meekness of wisdom. In other words, if you've got wisdom and you're applying it, it's going to produce fruit. Show me your works, the results. But if you have bitterness, envy and strife in your hearts, lie not against the truth. Oh my. In other words, that's not wisdom to allow these things to operate in your life. The wisdom descendeth not from above, but is earthly or sensual wisdom. We need to determine that there are two kinds of wisdom. Paul talked about in Corinthians that the wisdom of man is not God's wisdom, and it's not true wisdom. And then he says, for where envying and strife is, there is confusion and every evil work. So if you're striving, worrying, it brings confusion. And when you have confusion, you can become double-minded. Know that, been there, done that. And I know that we can have our mind is where is the warfare field for the enemy, and he's always trying to get you to be double-minded, me also. And so he says, where there's envying, strife, there is confusion in every evil work. So this becomes the place where the enemy plants his seed in the land that he plants his seed. Finishing, but the wisdom that is from above, it's first pure, praise God, then peaceable, and it's gentle, and it's easy to be entreated, full of mercy, good fruits, without partiality and without hypocrisy. That's the wisdom we want. And the fruit of righteousness is sown in peace of them that make peace. So remember, this is a season. Let's ask for wisdom. Let's believe we receive it when we ask for it, and that we will not be double-minded or brought into that the words we speak, even the fruit of the words we speak, can change things. James compared it to the rudder on a ship that changes the direction of the words. And good water and salt water can't come out of the same well. So let's let that wisdom of God pour out of us good, positive confession, directions, wisdom of obedience, and discipline. Those are the things that God would have us to know, that are wise things to know. So I bless you. I praise God's blessings upon you. His divine wisdom be a part of us as we go through this, and we will be victorious. We are victorious. We already have been declared that we're more than conquerors, which means out of this situation we will come not only victoriously, but we'll take the rewards of it. There's going to be many wonderful things that can happen out of every bad looking situation. So I bless you and I speak blessings over you. God bless you.